Have you noticed how fashionable it has become to wear jewelry, whether it's an earring, necklace, or bracelet, featuring the symbol of the cross? It's interesting that even those who aren't Christians often choose to display this emblem. Celebrities, actors, and popular singers seem to embrace it as a trendy accessory. This observation naturally leads us to ponder a deeper question. Do these individuals truly understand the profound meaning behind this ancient symbol? In the time of Jesus, when he taught that we must take up our cross, the mere idea of the cross invoked deep fear and anxiety. Back then, the cross was not a mark of faith or hope. It was a symbol of a terrible curse, a tool of execution used by the Roman authorities. It represented suffering, humiliation, and death. This historical context forces us to ask, is it a sin to wear the cross today? Could adorning ourselves with this symbol unintentionally invite negativity or spiritual harm if we do not fully comprehend its significance? I recently heard a story that beautifully illustrates how the true meaning of the cross can be overlooked. A young man at church recounted an encounter with an elderly lady who visited a jewelry store in search of a ring. None of the designs appealed to her until she asked, "Do you have that ring with the little man hanging on a cross?" To her, it was nothing more than a decorative trinket, a mere image of a man on a cross. This anecdote is both intriguing and a bit concerning, as it reveals that some people fail to grasp the deep, transformative symbolism of the cross. For them, it's simply an ornament devoid of its rich, spiritual narrative. The cross appears in many different contexts, on the walls of cemeteries and hospitals, as tattoos on people's bodies, in churches, and even in horror movies or depictions of significant historical events. Its omnipresence in our culture has, in many ways, diluted its original meaning. Despite its widespread use, the true story behind the cross remains misunderstood by many. This brings us to an essential reflection for believers. Is it appropriate for a Christian to wear the cross as an accessory, or does such usage risk trivializing its sacred meaning? To answer this, we must first delve into the history and symbolism of the cross. In ancient times, the cross was synonymous with death and disgrace. Under Roman rule, crucifixion was the ultimate punishment, a method reserved for the worst criminals. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, was condemned and executed in this very manner. Moreover, historical records tell us that several of his disciples, such as Peter, Andrew, and Bartholomew, also suffered crucifixion. Over the centuries, however, the cross was adopted in various contexts that strayed far from its biblical roots. For example, during the Crusades in the 11th century, the cross was wielded as a banner for religious wars, and it even appeared on the sails of European ships during their colonial expeditions. These associations with violence and conquest might make some wonder whether the symbol of the cross is inherently linked to such negative events. But let us be clear, the atrocities committed in the name of God do not define the true essence of the cross. For Christians today, the cross no longer represents a tool of execution or a mark of shame. Instead, it stands as a powerful reminder of Christ's immense love and sacrifice. When we reflect on Jesus, many only recall the instrument of his death. Yet the Bible tells us a far more hopeful story. Jesus willingly embraced the cross as a means to bear the sins of all who believe in him. In John chapter 10, he explains, "The Father loves me because I lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again." This passage reminds us that his sacrifice was an act of deliberate love and power. None of us deserve the gift of salvation or the promise of eternal life. Yet God's grace and mercy make it possible. When we choose to wear the cross, our intention should be clear. It must serve as a reminder of the gospel message and the redemptive work of Christ in our lives. It should inspire us to share that message with others and live out our faith authentically. We must also be cautious not to transform this sacred symbol into a mere fashion accessory. If the cross is used as an amulet or an idol, something that becomes an object of misplaced faith, it can detract from its true purpose. As believers, we are called to ensure that our external adornments reflect the inner beauty and transformation that comes from following Christ. The scriptures also offer guidance on this matter. In 1 Peter 3, we are advised that our beauty should not come solely from external adornments, such as elaborate hairstyles, expensive jewelry, or fancy clothes, but from the inner self, characterized by a gentle and quiet spirit that is highly valued by God. This teaching isn't a prohibition against wearing symbols of faith. Rather, it is a call to ensure that our focus remains on the character and virtues that God desires to cultivate within us. Another important consideration is the depiction of the cross itself. Many Christians proudly wear the cross to proclaim their love for Jesus and to keep the memory of his sacrifice ever present in their lives. However, caution should be exercised when the cross is combined with an image of the crucified Christ. There are two key reasons for this. First, the commandment in Exodus 20 instructs us not to create any graven images or likenesses of the divine, as such representations can easily lead to idolatry. Second, depicting Jesus on the cross might inadvertently suggest that his death was a final act of the story, when in fact his resurrection on the third day transforms the narrative from one of defeat to one of ultimate victory over sin and death. In conclusion, dear friends, wearing the cross, whether as jewelry on clothing or even as a tattoo, is not inherently sinful. What matters most is the condition of our hearts and our relationship with God. The cross is a profound symbol of the love, sacrifice, and redemption that Jesus offers to each one of us. If we wear it without reflecting on its true meaning, it becomes an empty ornament. But if it reminds us daily of our commitment to Christ and inspires us to live out his love, then it becomes a powerful testimony of our faith. I encourage you to consider the cross not just as a fashionable accessory, but as a call to live a life transformed by grace, a life dedicated to loving God and our neighbors as ourselves. If this message has touched your heart, please consider subscribing to my channel, where I strive to help you grow in your walk with God each day. May God bless you abundantly, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.